Hey, welcome back once again to Jack's Tech Corner. I'm your host Jack, and this is a Windows Server 2012 video tutorial. Now, if you haven't yet, please check out my website, jackstechcorner.com, and click on the online classes. There you will find a Windows Server 2008 R2 class, and I recommend, if you're new to Windows servers, to sign up for that class and to take it. At the end, you do receive a certification from me for completion of Windows Server 2008 R2. Now, today we are talking about Windows Server 2012, which is new and something you're probably not even considering rolling out into your data centers or your server racks. I know I'm, for one, not ready to make that commitment, but I thought now would be a good time to start looking at it, since it is the up-and-coming thing and we have to get to know how to use it anyway. Today we're going to be talking about the new Server Manager, and we're going to be looking at installing or adding a role and making this an Active Directory domain service. So let's go ahead and get started. Here on our start screen, which looks a lot like, yes, you are correct, and here at the beginning, it looks exactly like Windows 8. So if you enjoy Windows 8, you're going to enjoy Windows Server 2012. I, for one, am still getting used to this whole tile thing. I don't know if I really like it. And I already have found ways to shut it off, and we'll talk about that further down the road or in one of my courses. So let's go ahead and click on Server Manager. Now Server Manager loads up, and I want to show you just a couple things here with Server Manager of how it's set up. Actually expand this out just a little bit here. Okay, now in the bottom here it says roles and server groups, and we have it split up here into different categories. One is file and storage services, events, performances, and we can look at different areas here. Next is local server. That's all based on the local servers. There's events, services, manageability. And then we have all servers. If you have a bunch of servers in your data center or your racks and you're going to be tying them together, this is what we'll be looking at as all servers. What I also found interesting or really nice in Server Manager now is the tools up here at the top. If I click on tools, it pretty much gives me all of my administrative tools right here in front of me that I can just go over and I can work with. That's really neat. Next, if you click on the Manage button, you can get the same kind of thing here you're getting in your GUI interface anyway, is adding roles and features, removing roles, adding servers, creating a server group, and Server Manager properties. As I'm sure we'll be looking at those later on down the road through the Server 2012 course, but that will be coming later. I still recommend the Server 2008 R2 course, since that is currently what pretty much every company that I know of out there is using. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and create or add our domain directory services, because if you have a domain controller, that is where you have to start anyway. But I do want to touch base on one thing that we have to add before we do that. Let's go ahead and click on Add Roles and Features. And we are going to get this wizard that comes up. It says Roles and Features Wizard. You can skip this page by default. I would highly suggest that you do skip this page by default. You don't want to read this stuff every time you go in here, right? We are going to create a role-based or feature-based installation. We can also do remote desktop service installation, which is a VDI. A lot of the industry is going to be going this way, I predict, over the next probably 5 years. Now we're going to be looking at virtual desktop infrastructure or virtual desktops. And the reason we're going to do that is to make it cheaper on the client end, and to give us as administrators more control over what that user is actually experiencing or doing, either one of those two, for security or experience reasons. And we'll talk about that later down the road. So let's go ahead and click on Next. Now it's going to ask you either select a server from the server pool or select a virtual hard disk of where you want to install these features to. We are going to install it to this actual operating system here and this server, so that's just by default. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about first. First, before you set up your active domain directory services, I highly recommend that if you do not have a DNS server on your network, you're going to have to create a DNS server. Now, you could either, as I said, do one here. If this is a brand new server, it's a brand new server farm that you're building. You have a brand new rack as the first server in it. It's going to be your domain controller. Great. We can make it the first primary DNS server. And we'll talk down the road. You can't have more, but we're going to have at least one in order for the Active Directory domain services to find it to install of its necessary features. So I recommend to just go ahead and make this a DNS server. It's going to tell you have to add a couple other features. I don't know why they do this, because you can't go on if you do not add these features. So we'll click on Add Features. And validation results. See, it's found some kind of problems with the validation of the install features. But we're going to click on Continue. The reason it's telling me that is because I don't have a static IP address, is why it's saying that. So we can go next. Let's go previous here. We do have it selected. We go next. And we will go next again. And then just next again. Restart the destination server automatically if required. You can check that, or just click on install. We're going to click on install and see what happens. Now, as this is installing, I can take a few minutes here just to tell you a couple pointers when you're setting up your new domain controllers. One is, as I said, if it's your only one in the rack, you have to have at least one DNS server anyway, a domain name server. We have to have that set up. And also, if it's the only one in the rack, you're also going to want to install DHCP so your clients can find the actual servers, right? Pick up an IP address and be able to get on your network. And it did say it succeeded, so installation succeeded. So the DNS server is now available. We shall click on Close. And now what we're going to do is we are going to go back in here and we're going to click on Add Roles and Features again. Now we're going to do role-based. Click on Next. Same pool. Click on Next as a server. And this time, now DNS is installed. You can see it here. It's already installed. We're going to do our Active Directory Domain Controller. Active Directory Domain Services. Click on Next. And just leave that. I leave that stuff checked in there by default. I don't add a bunch of stuff. So we're just going to leave that by default. We're going to move on. Click Next. And we will restart this time. We're going to allow restart, because that will restart this actual server if it needs to be restarted, and click on Install. So why, if you're new to Windows Server, why do you need Active Directory Domain Services? Why is that, and what's that important? That is important because that is where all of our user accounts get created for our domain or for our network, to allow them access into our domain controllers, our file servers, our application servers, and whatever else you may have running. So and by default, this is not set up. And the reason that is, a lot of people call me or ask me or email me and say, why is that? The reason that this is not set up by default is simply because you can set a Windows server up. Maybe you want to set up a SQL server or a IIS server or something else that don't need to have the whole Active Directory domain structure on it, that you're putting user accounts and everything. So there you have it. Installation has succeeded once again, so it is up and running. So click Close on that. And then now we'll see down here we have ADDS and we have DNS. So we now have new features down here in our roles and groups. Now, if we go to manageability of this one, you'll see here where you have detailed views and what's in here, what's coming off. Or you can go to AD, click on that, and get right into it. So this is our server view and our events view here. If there's any events going on, severity says there was an error here. We will talk about that later and have a look at that later on. We're going to go back to our dashboard. And what we're going to do now is, now that that's created and completed, we should be able to, I guess without a restart, we're going to go and we're going to click on Tools, and you will now see Active Directory, Domains and Trusts, Active Directory Administrative Center, Active Directory Users and Computers, and Active Directory Sites and Services, as well as Active Directory Module for Windows PowerShell. So you get all these extra features now under Tools just because we added the Active Directory domain services. That is how simple it is to add that. And I believe in our next video, we will have a look at adding a user account into there and how that user account will be set up. I'm going to also be talking about some scripts. We use a lot of scripts in our network and what those scripts are for and how those are used. Okay, folks, so I hope you've enjoyed this little session here of Windows Server 2012. And this is just to get your taste buds wet a little bit, I guess, or get you thinking a little bit about Windows Server 2012. Not that I'm recommending rolling it out yet into your data centers or your server racks. I do recommend, however, that you set it up as a virtual machine and you start learning it, start seeing what it'll do for you. And if you had, watch my videos, and I'm sure we can get you going here with Windows Server 2012. With that said, please check out my website again, jackstechcorner.com. Click on the online classes and sign up for the Windows Server 2008 R2 class. Folks, it's still mainstream. It's still very much predominant out there in the server racks. I know we use it on all of our servers, and I'm sure you will be also wherever you may get a job or be working. And you do gain that certificate at the end. So thanks for watching this video, and at the very least, please subscribe and tell everybody else about my Windows Server videos and get them out there and get them popular. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next time here on Jack's Tech Corner for another Windows Server video tutorial. Bye for now.